I'm going to be reading a Skype conversation that I had with Brent Spiner, and we got into a pretty deep conversation. Both Brent and I have genius emotional IQ, and as you listen to this conversation that we had between ourselves, you'll see how that emotional IQ comes into play. Brent, hello, dear. I hope you're feeling better today. A bit better. I need to upload my video for today. Loree seems to be in a bad mood. My high emotional IQ can sense this. Her spirits are down. She has suffered a major loss. Her bombs sure make me cough, though. Brent, you've got a lot of things going well for you and are feeling confident. That probably injures Loree quite a bit. Well, right now, I wake around 5:30 a.m. without the alarm no matter when I go to bed. So since I can't beat it, I just go to bed earlier. It could be that I'm still suffering from yeast toxin withdrawal and all that. Brent, that happens to me too. You may want to schedule our next movie night earlier for that reason, like maybe 6 or 7 p.m. It amazes me how our symptoms are so similar, Brent. Couples tend to zinc with each other when they're really close. When you're sad or stressed, I usually feel it too, even if I don't know it yet. It also happens when you're turned on. Oh dear, I hope it doesn't affect your functioning because you're very busy. Brent, no, not at all. I enjoy being connected to you. We make each other stronger. Brent, yeah. I was thinking I could make a public YouTube video and relate how our movie night went and read Joshua's card to me that I got at the P.O. box. I'll also request that someone buy me a cork board that I can pin up on the wall to display cards and letters I get from my fans. Brent, oh, I like that idea. I already have it up on my Amazon wish list. Brent, that's a good one. The fans would be tickled to see their cards and letters up on the corkboard in my video backgrounds. Brent, yeah, they love being featured in your videos. Wow, you can't put the word semen in post descriptions at Patreon. Goes against their community guidelines. A pop-up warned me about it even before I published the post. It was an easy matter to delete it from the description. I had the word semen globules to describe Loree's bombs. Brent, maybe you can just censor it like semen apostrophe E-M-E-N or something. Oops, I mean semen apostrophe M-E-N. I changed it to germ globules. Brent, Loree is such a pervert. Yeah, and such a hypocrite. She plays so self-righteous about proper language and presentation, but cares nothing about any of the stuff she spouts. Her only goal is to discredit her enemies and will lie voraciously about herself and others to do it. All about impressions and manipulating the world to ensure she stays in power and can live her high and mighty lifestyle with no hindrances. Brent, I notice she projects all of her own qualities on her enemies, too. She's so deep in her fantasies, I don't even think she realizes it. I think you're right. So she's mentally ill. Sounds like she has a form of schizophrenia. That's what schizophrenia is, losing yourself into non-reality and believing all your fantasies. She sounds like a combo schizophrenic psychopath. Brent, yeah. It seems like the better things go for you in your life, the more Loree's life sucks. She really has a sick mentality that she feeds off of others' sufferings. What a tragic human being. She can only be happy when everyone is as mentally ill as she is. I think she's in deep denial about her mental illness, and her whole obsession is to evade reality because to have to admit she's mentally ill is devastating to her. But when I do well, reality hits her, and she feels like she needs to feel superior to maintain the illusion she needs to stay happy. I'm starting to figure out this woman a little better. She actually has a very deep-rooted inferiority complex from her time as a Zach Knight Jesuit, and recalls when Zach demoted her for failing in the 2011 Quebec trial. Her obsession right now is to prove to the world that she's as good as or better than Zach Knight as a Jesuit. She's never really forgiven Zach and Rule 13 for demoting her in 2011 after the Quebec trial. That's why she hasn't come over to Zach. Brent, that's really brilliant insight. I think she has a deep-rooted inferiority complex about being a clone, as if a clone is somehow inferior. This explains why she uses clones so much and has them do all the acting and is really big into using clones more so than Zach. Brent, maybe it's that she feels like a fake person and that her life doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. She can't understand why any clone would side with us, because we claim clones have inferior evil DNA. She thinks they do it because they're victims of discrimination and they've bought into this clones are inferior nonsense, which she is determined to prove is wrong. Usually, when I start getting insights like this because of my genius emotional IQ, I'm able to use it to reach the enemy and get them to come to our side. I just need an opportune moment, like what happened when Angelina betrayed 13 and I could reach Zach. Loree is convinced that Jesus was unfair to allow Satan to create clones, and it's not her fault she's a clone. She really feels discriminated against, which explains her obsession with everybody's rights, like women's rights and being the SJW that she is. Brent, yeah, she acts as if she cares about helping everyone else, but it's really just about herself. It's all about making herself feel better to cover the deep emotional pain she feels for being a clone. Brent, a fake. And Jesus is right, she's too prideful, because all she cares about is her image, because she feels like clones have gotten a bad rap. I can sort of relate to her now, because when I was growing up, my mom always accused me of being just like my dad, and I knew she meant it in a negative context. You are selfish and cold, just like your father. But if I'm like my father because of my genes, is that my fault? She said I had my father's long, skinny legs, that he had undeveloped calves and had ugly legs he had to cover for shame. So Loree was used to hearing over and over that clones are disposable people and only useful for projects. I guess she feels like a disposable person. Brent, that's deep. And she's on a mission to prove how important and useful she is. It's gotten to such an extreme that she feels she even has the right to impose the clone approach to life on everyone else. Instead of feeling shame for being disposable, Loree sees it now as a strength, a type of invincibility, since she cannot be killed because she can pop up again as a copy. And Satan is feeding on her insecurity about being a clone by giving her Antichrist powers. Satan needs mentally ill followers because no mentally healthy person will follow him. Satan's learned from his mistakes with Zach Knight. Zach had his faults, but he's pretty mentally healthy. Brent, yeah, being a dick is just a personality disorder, not an illness. So I would classify Loree as more of a sociopath, and my sister is the psychopath. In other words, if Zach and Rule 13 treated Loree with more respect, she may have come to us when Zach did. But my sister just seems to have evil genes. However, is it true that some Loree clones have come to us? Brent, some of them have, like the Brent clone did. We usually marry them off to compatible Christian men, and then they go away and leave us in peace. How interesting. I think Satan is instructing Loree to create clones that have a deep inferiority complex and resentment about being a clone so that they will never side with us. Satan needs his followers to feel cheated. He's actually not happy and needs fellow commiserators. Happy people don't follow Satan. He needs people who have an issue with God and are mad at God, who feel cheated. So the difference between my sister and Loree is that Loree needs to feel cheated to maintain her functioning. The resentment fuels her, whereas with my sister, she just plain enjoys being evil and now has found someone who will accommodate her. And yes, my sister is jealous of me because she never really believed that a truly good person can make it in life, and she knows she's evil and is resentful that a good person, me, is outdoing her. So my sister's mad at God too, because she's evil, and she thinks it's God's fault that she is who she is, and that if God doesn't like it, he can lump it. I get genius emotional IQ insights every now and then. Brent, you have a brilliant mind, my dear. I love hearing your insights. My sister's attitude is, hey, Jesus, you created me and I'm evil, so it's your fault. Loree understands me and accepts me the way I am, which you don't. So go to hell, Jesus. And how come you favor my sister just 'cause her genes are better than mine? It's not my fault. I am who I am, and I will fight you even into hell. Loree's attitude is, hey, Jesus, Satan created me and I'm a clone. Yeah, you hear that? I'm a clone, and damn proud I'm a clone. You don't like it, you can lump it. If clones have evil DNA, well, you allowed Satan to create me, and here I am. You don't like it? You can lump it. How funny that you couldn't even make sure that Gail's sister would be a goody two-shoes like Gail is. Looks like goody-goody people are the losers in life. Ha 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 ha. So Loree's out to prove to God that she's a clone, and clones are the superior race. And my sister's out to prove to God that she's evil, and it's not her fault, and she's proud of being evil. Brent, it sounds like Loree's insecurity is so bottomless, it's as if she needs to be more superior than God just to make up for it. It sounds like I've described them both well. You have very high emotional IQ too. Yes, I think you get her totally now, but you'll never get her to admit that she feels the least bit inferior, because I'm not even sure she's aware of it. She's in total denial about her feelings of inferiority. She's constructed this complex mind game to keep herself happy about feeling inferior as a disposable clone. And here are the lies my sister and Loree need to believe to stay happy as they see it. My sister needs to believe that God is unfair for allowing evil in the universe and that it's God's fault evil exists and evil people exist. That evil people can't help who they are because the evil is in their genes. The lie they believe is that they feel that free will plays very little influence into who they are, and that if they'd made correct choices early on, perhaps they would have chosen good over evil and not become evil. So my sister discounts that she became evil partly because of her own choices early on in life and won't accept that it's her fault she's evil. The lie she believes is that there's no free will and we are all born to be good or evil. The lie Loree believes is that all clones are inherently evil and are Satan's creation, and that anything that is Satan's creation can never be good or acceptable. Yet even Jesus admits that he would forgive even Satan if Satan got right. So again, Loree discounts the importance of free will or our choices in determining who we are. Most Jesuits are evil Jesuits because they believe Satan's lie that they cannot change and that they're born the way they are and that their choices make very little difference, when in actuality our choices make all the difference. So this explains the victim mentality that most Jesuits fall into. Brent, that makes sense. Even if a person makes a lot of bad choices, they can still choose to change at any time and start making good ones, even if they're not perfect at first and continue to make mistakes like Zach Knight. Exactly. Loree and my sister need to see that it's their choices that have made them who they are, not just their genes or how they were born. Just because Jesus knows in advance who will honor him and obey him doesn't mean he's unfair to those who won't honor and obey him. Jesus is allowed to show favoritism to those he knows will obey him. Loree and my sister are fuming mad at Jesus for his favoritism, not admitting at all that if Jesus knew in advance that they would choose to obey Jesus over Satan, he would have easily chosen them. They blame Jesus for his foreknowledge and for acting on it. Brent, It sounds like they have a defeatist attitude. It's actually easy to get into a defeatist attitude because we're all creatures of habit and change is stressful. A defeatist attitude is easier to deal with. That explains why it's so hard for alcoholics and smokers to quit. It's hard to change the way we're used to doing things. Change is stressful. Even good change can be stressful. It's kind of like what we've been going through. We're on the right path, but it's been stressful. It's a good change, but it's stressful. If not for our faith in Jesus, we could have bailed out and denied ourselves the benefit of this good change. Brent, I think Jesus has been teaching us a lot the past few months so that we keep progressing spiritually and don't turn out like Sandra or Loree. Oh, he's always growing us. Brent, he allowed us to run into dead ends and wanted to show us that we can always get back up from failure and keep trying until we succeed. It's been a real learning experience. Brent, he doesn't like it when people get into an all or nothing approach to life. It's easy to develop a defeatist attitude that way. What do you mean by an all or nothing approach to life, Brent? He would rather people try and make the progress they can, not give up at the first mistake or disappointment. Some people say, well, if I didn't succeed 100%, then I failed and I'm no good. Jesus doesn't see it that way. He sees us as all growing. Ah, he's teaching us perseverance and patience. Brent, yeah. He said it's like when a child is learning to walk. A child might stumble and fall at first, or maybe they can only walk a few feet instead of across the room like they wanted. But they'd never learn to walk at all if they just gave up because they fell down or couldn't do it all the way. Jesus is proud whenever he sees us take even a few steps and make small victories, and he doesn't sweat it if we fall down. Well, my dear, patience and perseverance are your super strengths. Most actors in Hollywood have those traits. Brent, yeah, it can be real frustrating getting started as an actor. There's so much competition out there. Most new actors give up when they see themselves not getting any gigs for a long time. Loree and Sandra only have a defeatist attitude in their approach to God. They have a ton of patience and perseverance in areas where they should not. For me, it's the opposite. My approach to God is great, but I don't have a lot of patience and perseverance with my own weaknesses, especially when it comes to dealing with areas where Jesuits have trounced me. Sometimes I feel that once the Jesuits have me down, I'm down and can't get up. Brent, yeah, it gets overwhelming and can suck all the motivation out sometimes. Whereas Jesus seems to want me to be more of a fighter and to realize that I'm capable of doing more than I realize. I tend to overestimate my circumstances and underestimate my abilities, whereas with Loree and Sandra, they overestimate their abilities and underestimate God. They know they're capable, but they see themselves as irredeemably evil. Brent, that makes sense. In fact, to both Loree and Sandra, because they feel so morally inferior, they need to feel more capable, to feel better about their moral shortcomings. I, on the other hand, know I'm morally superior, but often fall for the victim mentality, feeling that evil people are stronger than good people and that the obstacles they present are too high for me to climb. I often carpet God about being a deadbeat for this reason. I dislike it that God doesn't fix all the evil in the universe right now, but it has to do with his free will. He's really big into free will. Brent, yeah, he wants everyone to explore their own choices and figure out what makes them happy. Exactly. And have you noticed that evil Jesuits try to block freedom? It's like they know deep down that free will determines our destiny, and they don't want to take any blame for their moral shortcomings. So they think by taking everyone's freedom from them, they can blame God that there's no freedom, and so they don't get in trouble with God for their bad choices. They can say, so you say I am who I am because of my choices? Well, God, you're letting me take everyone's freedom away. So now that they don't have freedom to choose good, but have to choose evil, whose fault is that? They're trying to make it that when they face God at the judgment, he will just have to blink his eyes and say that they're right and Satan deserves to be king over the universe. Brent, that's true. It makes sense that Satan despises freedom, since he knows God likes it so much. SJWs are definitely Satan followers. They want everyone to give up their own thoughts and freedoms and bend to their will. No wonder Loree likes SJW culture. You see, SJWs can't think for themselves because people who think for themselves take responsibility for their own choices. Since they don't feel responsible for their own choices, they feel a real need to be SJWs. All SJWs are inflicted with the victim mentality. Brent, right on. That's why they think they can't be happy until some outside force fixes all of their problems for them, namely the government. It's like, hey, God, I am who I am because you're unfair. It has nothing to do with my choices. It's easier to blame God than take responsibility for your choices. Brent, SJWs don't want to make their own termite sticks or get their own bananas. They want to complain that it's too much work and have others do it for them. I see so many SJWs complaining that they're poor because it's too hard to find a job and everything is so expensive. They think it's unfair. What? Loree and Sandra have financial difficulties? Brent, they sure do. Oh, it's all probably poor money management. Brent, you know how Sandra is with money. She's always blowing her husband's money. Yeah, it is. That's why giving them more money would never fix anything. It's like those people you hear about who win the lottery and are broke and poor again after a year. So that's why Jesus doesn't want us to sue them for money. Brent, instead of saving it and only spending on important things and having money set aside for major expenses or emergencies, they blow it on impulse shopping and bargain hunting. It's because they don't have any because it's always gone. Brent, yeah, they blow money as soon as they get it. Sandra has a really bad habit where if she sees she's gotten more money than usual, she impulsively starts thinking of ways to spend it instead of saving it for emergencies like Jesus would want. Jesus says having a big savings is the most important part of being financially safe and secure. It's like sowing seeds for the future. I think part of the spending is a form of addiction to feel better about themselves. Brent, that's probably true. Kind of like how some people eat more when they're stressed. Brent, they're so unhappy that spending money and buying things is the only time they ever feel a rush. It's like a drug. Exactly. Well, we've come up with some brilliant insights into Loree and Sandra and ourselves between the two of our genius emotional IQ brains. Jesus is right about everything. So if he says a big savings is important for financial security, it is.